A WWE Hall of Famer and former producer is set to sit with the Impact Wrestling crew during the upcoming Impact Emergence event. We're also going to discuss about Bound for Glory being moved to avoid a clash with a WWE Premium Live event, but will be going head-to-head with AEW Rampage. Plus, we have the ratings for this week's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV. All this and more in today's Impact Wrestling News. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of Impact Wrestling. So let's start off talking about a name possibly coming in to work in creative, producing, an agent, or just sitting in for now. That being WWE Hall of Famer and former WWE producer and creative head writer for SmackDown, that being the Road Dogg. Yes, the Road Dogg could be joining Impact Wrestling in a larger capacity, but what we know for now is that the Road Dogg will be sitting with the crew backstage at Impact Emergence. Road Dogg will be backstage at the upcoming Impact events. The 53-year-old revealed that he will be, quote, sitting with the company's crew as they film their event and television tapings the night after. He said, quote, I've got some future events I'm looking forward to, he said on his Oh You Didn't Know podcast. I'm going to fly to Chicago in a couple of weeks and just sit with the Impact crew as they do their next pay-per-view and their television taping, and then the next week, I think in Chicago, the Top Guy weekends for ads free. So I'm looking forward to some upcoming events. Impact Emergence, of course, takes place on August 12 in Cicero. Is that how you say it? You can let me know in the comment section below. I'm terrible with pronunciations, but it's in Illinois. It's going to be in Chicago or in the state of Illinois. Now, Road Dogg recently stated on Busted Open Radio. Before I get into this, actually, it must be said, Road Dogg is generating a lot of headlines at the moment because some of the stuff he says is bizarre, and some of the guy has no shame in some of the things that he says. He's begging for a job with AEW for weeks. They clearly turn him down, and then he starts poo-pooing all over the AEW product, and suddenly now Triple H, his friend's back in charge of WWE. Now he's begging for a job for WWE again. Who would have thought it? As I mentioned, Road Dogg recently stated on Busted Open Radio that he's been begging Tony Khan for a job with the company after being a producer for Ric Flair's last match. Road Dogg was asked if he felt his chances at landing a role in AEW have improved. He said, quote, I'm going to change my tactic. Watch this, he responded. I don't want a job, Tony. I'm good, thank you. Truth be told, I'd love to work there because I do think I could make this television show better for the viewer. Having said that, I'm having a really good time right now doing the podcast, doing other people's podcasts, doing stuff like this, doing the conventions and the signings and stuff. It's so much fun and I get to spend time with my family. I'm in a really good place. He also spoke about Ric Flair's last match, saying, quote, I was interested to see how they put the match together, and I knew the finish, but didn't know how the beginning or the middle or the end. It was exactly how I thought I would have constructed it, and exactly the way it should have gone. You're not going to run a bunch of spots. The guy is 73 years old, he continued. So a lot to break down there. As far as Road Dogg sitting in on the Impact Emergence event, I don't see a problem with that at all. Like, Road Dogg clearly has a ton of experience. He was a producer for TNA Wrestling back in the day, prior to going back to WWE, which I believe was in, it might have been late 2011, 2012, around that period of time. He was with WWE for a really long time in a backstage capacity and worked his way up very high up in the company, actually. At one point, he was the head writer for SmackDown. He was a senior producer in WWE. After spending all of the time as the head writer of SmackDown, he then moved to NXT, where of course Triple H was overseeing things, and I think he was maybe not the head producer but or a head writer, but a lead producer there. So he's been heavily influential in WWE for a really, really long time. Of course, he was let go when a lot of Triple H's crew was let go either earlier this year or last year. I forget what it was. It all bleeds into one. But he certainly could have a ton to offer Impact Wrestling, and he's got history of the company. As I mentioned before, he was a producer in TNA/Impact Wrestling for a really long time, all the way up until the late 2000s, as far as I can recall. So he would absolutely be an influence and a positive addition to those backstage in Impact Wrestling. Some of the things he has said and some of the opinions he has, I think, are questionable, to say the least. And again, some of the things he said in his podcast, I think, are questionable, to say the least. I think his perception of AEW, and this thing, I'm not going to begrudge anyone for trying to get a job. I'm not going to try and begrudge anyone for getting a job or trying to get work anywhere. I'm not going to say that, but how can you trust a guy's opinion? And this is my opinion, but how can you trust a guy's opinion where for weeks, this guy is saying all of these things, saying, I really want a job in AEW, and you saw that the tweets he was putting out on social media. I think there was a picture of Tony Khan dressed in the suit, and he's going, man, I hate to admit it, but you guys look sharp. Just basically kissing this guy's ass. He was kissing Tony Khan's ass for weeks, and we heard, I think, Billy Gunn do an interview saying, oh, I've tried talking to Tony to try and get Road Dogg a job, because clearly Road Dogg's been messaging Billy Gunn, hey, can you get me in, brother? Can you do all this kind of stuff? And then Tony Khan clearly said no, or there isn't any space, or I've got my guys, and then wouldn't you know it, suddenly Road Dogg starts shitting on the product. Suddenly, the product's terrible, all this and that and the other. And look, AEW, especially if you watch Dynamite every week, it's not perfect. There are massive flaws in that show. But how can you trust this guy's opinion if it's changing every couple of weeks depending on whether he wants a job or not? I don't know. I feel like that guy is just showed himself up for what he is at the moment. Again, and that's not to say he doesn't have anything to offer or he doesn't have experience, because clearly he does. And I do think he'd be an asset to Impact Wrestling. But again, some of the stuff he said recently is just, I'm going to, and I remember when, even when he was head writer of SmackDown, and people would criticize his work, and because SmackDown in 2017, when he was head writer, was not great. It was not great during that period of time. People would criticize it, and he'd push back at them on social media. You don't know what you're talking about. You've never been in the business. You're not a wrestler. Rah, rah, rah. And it just came across as sour grapes. So he backs the product. Everyone's a genius in WWE. Until he gets let go, then they're no longer a genius. Then AEW is a great company because I want a job there. But AEW turned me down. Suddenly they're not a good company anymore. I don't know. I really don't know. And just, again, it comes across as very false and disingenuous, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see what happens to him in the future when it pertains to Impact. Bound for Glory, Impact Wrestling's biggest show of the year, is now going to be going head-to-head with AEW Rampage, a live AEW Rampage taping, it seems. The biggest card of the year was officially confirmed for Friday, the 7th of October. Now, that week, AEW's Friday night programming will be a live broadcast, with tapings immediately after for the Battle of the Belts special. That will be the 4th Battle of the Belts special. Now, it was previously reported that Impact Wrestling had moved Bound for Glory. They're running it in Albany, not Danbury, but that wasn't always supposed to be the case. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has confirmed that they had previously reported that Danbury, Connecticut was the landing spot for Impact Bound for Glory 2022 on October 8. However, the company announced Albany, New York for October 7 this week. The show is just 2 hours up the road, and they've learned why this change took place. Impact Wrestling does not want to go head-to-head with WWE's Extreme Rules Premium Live event, which is taking place on October 8, and the company did not want to go directly against their show. Instead, the pay-per-view was moved to Friday for the first time in the event's history. However, the venue wasn't available in Danbury for the nights Impact needed, so they opted to run Albany instead. Talent had been informed months ago that the original plans were in Danbury. Now, Impact hasn't actually run an event in Albany since 2012. So if you're a bit confused as to why they moved to a Friday, is this a different model? Why it said Danbury before, now they're going to this? It was because they don't want to go head-to-head with the Extreme Rules Premium Live event, which makes sense. It makes sense. Why would you go ahead with that? Instead, they have to go head-to-head with AEW Rampage, which is no great shakes. I mean, I recall previously, they've moved stuff around in the past. They moved stuff around not to go head-to-head with, I think it was one of them was like the last, the first dance or whatever it was with AEW Rampage. They've moved stuff around in the past, so it's not a big deal, and competing with AEW Rampage isn't exactly a big deal either, because that show's kind of struggling at the moment. So that is what that is. Finally, we're going to talk about the ratings for this week's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV, and I know you guys love it when we talk about the ratings, but this week's Impact Wrestling stayed even in the ratings, while the total audience hit actually a 4-week high spot. Thursday night's show brought in a 0.03 rating in the 1849 demographic and 115,000 viewers, per WrestleNomics' Brandon Thurston. Those numbers are even in terms of the demographic, and the viewership number is actually up nearly 20% from last week's 96,000 viewers. Last week's demo was also a 0.03 rating. Thursday night's show marked the 4th straight episode and 5 of the last 6 to hit that demo rating mark, which has been the norm for the show in 2022. Pretty much it's been the average that they do a 0.03 in the key 18 to 49 demographic. But the viewership, as I mentioned, was the highest since the July 7th episode had 119,000 viewers. Impact ranked 123rd among cable originals for the night per Show Buzz Daily. The night was won by Fox News, as it usually is. Cable news or sports tends to win the night on cable most nights. Again, if there's live sport or there's something going on in the worlds of news, politics, then you've got cable news, which will be doing very strongly. But Impact is averaging a 0.031 demo rating and 114,000 viewers thus far in 2022, which is down compared to a 0.039 demo rating and 132,000 viewers at the same point in 2021. Again, we've spoken about ratings here on the channel ad nauseum, and I know that ratings in pro wrestling isn't the best gauge of success nowadays. The biggest gauge of success nowadays is in television revenue in terms of the contracts you already have, merchandise, live events, licensing. That's where you really earn your money nowadays. And companies like Impact Wrestling that are smaller companies, they massively diversify their income. So the focus isn't too much on ratings and viewership. It's more on what they're doing in the online space, what are they doing in the YouTube space. Of course, they've got the Ultimate Insiders on YouTube. What are they doing when they do run these events? Are they selling out in the small venues that they run? That's the more important thing. And I guess ratings don't really tend to matter as much when the company that owns you owns the television station or network that you're airing on, and that's the case with Access TV and Anthem. So that's the case right there. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on today's Impact Wrestling news stories in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestle News 365, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.